Right.
All right. Hello, everyone. Let's
Hey,
give it
let's
a
yeah.
give it a
Let's wait at least until 10:05.
okay, 10:05. We'll wait because I'm gonna just be letting everybody in.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, everybody, you heard it. We got about 3 more minutes till 10:05. And I'm just still letting people in. This is the Texas State meeting, followed by a bit of a contracts class that we're going to do. We have some awesome guests today that we're going to have in from Empower. All right. Everybody, as far as you area leaders, check your groups and make sure that everybody has the link and that no one needs it. And as I say that, I got a message in my own phone that somebody needs it. So there we go. Wow.
I know I've got people asking me. I don't know. The link should have been
Debbie, I shared it here. I'm going to share it in the chat again right now.
Yeah.
There you go. And
Okay.
somebody said the link is not in the group. I pulled it up. It is in the group. It's in the cloud.
It is.
But I think there might be two events in there. It might not be on the old one. All right. 10:04, a couple more minutes. We still got people coming in. Still got people coming in. Hold on, everybody.
Honey, I already canceled it, okay?
All right, I am going to mute everybody.
ያው ፍራድ ነው የሆነ ቻርጅ አለ በህግ አምላክ አልኳቸው ወዲያው ካንሰል አደረገው እጅስ እንትን እናደርጋለን ካርዱንም ካንሰል አድርገነዋል ሌላ ካርድ ይላካል
Yes.
This guy doesn't know that he's not muted. This guy doesn't know that he's not muted.
I'm trying to mute everyone and I can't find it for some reason. Mute all.
Oh, I don't want this. Thank you, though.
Oh, there we go.
የሆነ
There. All right. Now you have to ask to be unmuted or just unmute yourself. Ken, I'm going to unmute you.
I'm done.
Oh, you're in. You're live. All right. All right. Well, it is 10:05. I
All
am
right, let's do it.
downloading everyone. Hello. And I'm going to kind of help Ken run the meeting. And I want to just introduce our state broker first, Ken Whitfield. Thank you so
Good.
much. And we'll hear a few words from you first.
Good morning, everybody. It's June 14th. Welcome to the Texas State meeting. It's so great to see all your lovely faces. And I think we have a good meeting scheduled for you guys this week. I'm going to start out talking about just the state of Texas and how we're doing. And then we're going to move into some introductions because we've got a lot of new area leaders this month that we want to introduce you to. But let me start off with the state meeting by saying Epic Texas is now over 400 agents. That is a great milestone for us. In the month of May, Epic Texas did 67 million $900,000 in sales. We moved 194 units. We've had a outstanding month, and June is looking even better. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much for the hard work that you put in every day. I think what we'll do now after that is that we will move into the introductions of our area leaders. They are the front line and our support for you guys every day. And we want you to know them and to be comfortable with them. So Don, if you would just do the round robin for us.
You got it. All right, everyone. So I'll start out. First of all, I'm Dawn Loading. I'm in New Braunfels, Texas, and I have the area that is Canyon Lake, kind of everything surrounding New Braunfels here in this area, because we have San Antonio and we have Austin area leaders. So I would like to ask everyone to please mute yourself. I don't know. Okay, there, I found it. So welcome, love Epic. I've been here for almost a year. My anniversary date is next month. So I'm just going to call on the area leaders and let you guys introduce yourself as I see you on our screen. But if you would each raise your hand, please, so that you pop to the front of the group, I would love that. Not your real hand, but your little automated hand. But first, I'm going to call on Jess Smith. I see you right there, Miss Jess. Oops, sorry, I unmuted you. Go ahead. So Jessica Smith.
Hey guys, hey Dawn, I'm Jess Smith. I am the area leader, one of them for Austin. I have been here my whole life. Like Dawn, I've been at Epic almost a year and also involved in the Agent Advisory Committee and Power Girls. So I'm happy to be a resource and thanks for having me. It's fun to be here and see you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Jess. Yes, I forgot to say that. I also chair the Agent Advisory Council with Jess, so love that role. So next I see Mr. Dwayne. Dwayne is one of our newer area leaders in the Houston area. So Dwayne, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on down there.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Hey, my name is Dwayne Peno. I'm one of the Houston area leaders. I've been in real estate for 4 years, and I've been with Epic since January. So yeah, I'm super excited to get to know all of you, help you in any way I can. Good job.
Awesome. Thank you. And down there with Dwayne in the Houston area is Tracy King.
Hold on a second.
Tracy.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Yes,
Dwayne,
Yes, sir.
can you kind of lay out what cities around Houston that you're responsible for?
Yeah, I am responsible for the southern half of Houston. So that's everything from Rosenberg, Needville, all the way to Pasadena, which includes Sugarland, Sienna, Missouri City, Richmond, Manville, Stafford, down to Galveston as well.
Perfect.
so
Thank you,
southern,
sir.
south.
Yep.
Awesome.
I am the southern guy.
All right. Back to you, Tracy. I don't know where you went, but back to you.
Hey.
Raise your hand real quick so you go to the top.
Okay.
There. Okay, you're there.
Hey.
Yay.
Hey, I'm Tracy King. I'm also in Houston. I cover actually Houston, as well as east and west. So from pretty much Baytown, Beaumont on the east, all the way to Katy, Brookshire on the west, as well as up to 90, Cypress, Magnolia, pretty much all of west and northwest and east. And I'm also a broker. I have a broker's license, and then I have been with Epic since February. And yeah,
We're glad to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, next I have Laura Grau right next door to me in San Antonio. Laura.
Hello, Epic Texas. I am Laura Grau. I am in San Antonio, and I am here to be a resource for you guys. Give me a call. I'd love to meet you.
Awesome. All right, and then we have Robbie Johnson in Abilene, killing it up in Abilene. Our Texas team is.
Hello, I'm Robbie Johnson. I'm a broker in Texas, broker in Mississippi. 22 years in the business. So I serve as area leader for the Abilene area, and that's also San Angelo. And kind of, since we're the West, we're kind of out here by ourselves. We're everything kind of west of Fort Worth, that falls in the Abilene area. And then I'm also the assistant area leader in the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So I spend time down there too, helping those agents. And I love it. I've been with Epic now since February.
You have now learned the concepts of private insurance and
Okay, thank
Outstanding.
you so much, Robbie. All right, so next we have Mike. Mike, you tell us where you are.
Right. I always call myself the utility player for the company. So I'm an area leader in San Antonio. An area leader in Austin. I have agents in Lubbock, El Paso, probably coming soon to Egypt, all over the place. So we just grew really fast at the beginning of the year, and I was just helping out. And as we grew, we got some more area leaders, and we filtered those agents out to the correct areas. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Again, San Antonio, Austin, I'm all over the place. Have a lot of people everywhere. So love doing it, love helping everybody out. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. I think that's it. Jennifer is not here, is she? Dwayne or?
No, she's
I,
not.
Yeah,
I
she's
never
not.
saw.
Okay, well, we have one more in the Houston area, but we'll catch her next time. So, all right, well, that is all of our area leaders, our state broker. If anyone has any questions throughout, please raise your hand so we could see that. But other than that, we're going to introduce, oh, Debbie, did I not do Debbie?
No, good.
I'm sorry, Debbie McLean in Dallas, because you didn't have your hand raised. So I lost track. I'm so sorry, lady.
I forgot. I didn't hear you say raise my hand. It doesn't matter. I'm not very shy. I'm going to yell at you if you didn't.
Oh, and Carmen. What? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, you guys.
Okay, I am.
Preoccupied.
Yeah, I'm the area leader for Dallas Fort Worth, which is a big area. I live on the Fort Worth side. I've been a realtor for 19 years. This is right up my alley. I chose to slow down my production so I could take care of my agents in this area, and I absolutely love it. I began with Epic in February, became an area leader in April, and last month I was chosen to be on the committee with Dawn and some others for the content development, which is awesome. So there are going to be more to come, but I absolutely am here for my agents all over Dallas Fort Worth. So whatever y'all need, please let me know. This is a great gig.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Carmen Hamilton, and I think Jennifer just came in. So go ahead, Carmen.
Hey, I'm Carmen Hamilton. I'm up in the Longview area, so in the northeast corner of Texas, and I've been here since December at Epic, and this is coming up on my 10th anniversary in real estate next month. So excited. We've got such an awesome group here, and I'm really proud of the family that we're building, the family environment at Epic. So we're really glad that each and every one of you are here, and look forward to getting to know all of you better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carmen. All right. And Jennifer Jelks, you are in the house and we are introducing our area leaders. So if you would raise your hand, if you could do that really quick, that'll pop you up to the top of the screen for everybody. But if you don't mind introducing yourself. All right.
Is she there?
I don't know if she is or not. So we'll just go ahead and skip
Can you hear
over.
my
Oh,
can you hear my audio?
There you are.
Sorry.
Yes, there she is.
Sorry,
Morning,
Zoom has been giving me Zoom's been giving me a few problems. So hi everyone, I'm Jennifer Jelks. I'm a new area leader to north of Houston. So like Woodlands, Montgomery, Magnolia, if you're familiar with any of that. I've been doing real estate for 8 years. I've done residential and commercial. And I'm just excited for this journey to help others. So thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so now we have a special guest, and we have our transaction team in from Empower Transactions inside of Epic, and we have Molly, who is now going to be leading the Texas agent, and also Jennifer, who is the owner of Empower. I guess I don't know how that all works, but I know she's way up there. But anyway, Molly and Jennifer, if you guys would raise your hand, that'll pop you to the top of the screen for everybody. That would be awesome. Thank you. There is Jennifer. Jennifer, I'll let you go ahead and start out by introducing yourself.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I have to say, I'm so excited for the Texas call because I'm born and raised in Texas. So like Carmen, I've been in Longview my whole life. And then I looked at Robbie, and my daughter goes to ACU. Anyway, it's so cool being on the Texas call. So thank you for having me and Molly, and letting us, come on and give some updates. So yes, we are the transaction coordination team, and we do have some updates. As everyone on this call, I'm sure, is aware, we have been growing alongside all of you at Epic. And that comes with growing pains and training and hiring, to kind of help get us staffed. So we have some good, exciting announcements. The first one that I wanted to kind of go over, and I'm open to any questions, so please feel free to ask questions or raise your hand during any of these updates, because you will be getting this in an email early next week. So you don't have to remember everything that I'm saying. You'll be able to get that early on. But our first big announcement is that we formed a Texas transaction team. Sorry. And so we will have a team just over the state of Texas. And it's a little different because, like I said, as we've grown with Epic, we've kind of started with 1 and then 2 and then 4. And those are main people, not total people. And so we've just grown now that we've realized Texas needs their own group and their own experienced group. And so that's the very first thing. So that should help with a lot of things as far as knowledge base, as far as, turnaround times, because that's taking a higher volume that maybe that person was working and putting it just into the state of Texas. So that's our first announcement, is y'all will see that team and that information come out next week of who will just be over your state. The second thing that we have kind of going on is I know it's really needed for us to be more involved on maybe the process side and just these meetings to answer questions, more efficiently. So we are bringing on a role at Empower that's going to be more customer service based for Epic. It's going to be a client relations role. So they'll be able to jump on, meetings, but maybe also update what's going on, because as this will not be the last update, I'm sure when it comes to the state of Texas, we'll probably have multiple. We could go area specific in Texas, like who knows where we'll end on the TC role. But as those updates come and as we, we grow and structure, we want to make sure that y'all have someone that you can go to and escalate issues, bring up concerns, give suggestions, or just maybe ask, because if you have new agents coming into Epic and they might have a question because they have a current TC and they need to know how it works, just someone that's really there, that's the transaction coordinator, because that won't take the transaction coordinator away from the files. So we'll be implementing that role starting next week. And like I said, that's a director of client relations. So that information and contact will come out in the email as well. So I'm going to stop there and just see if anyone has any questions on those 2 things. And then I have one last thing on our turnaround times. I'm going to stop for a second and just make sure.
Any questions? If you have a question, please raise your hand so you could pop up to the top, and then I'll call on you so we don't have everybody going at once. But we've got Molly and Jennifer here. So if you have transaction coordinator questions, now is your opportunity. And your question might help someone else. So don't be shy.
I actually have a question over here, Ruth Rodriguez.
Go ahead, Ruth.
So my question is, I know, Molly, you have an automatic system in play for the transactions, but an example, if the transaction doesn't go through, or for some reason, the contract cancels, sometimes those automatic emails are still being sent. So how is a good way to inform you or the team, or how your system, that, hey, these automatic system emails should not be sent out anymore?
Great question, Ruth. Sometimes we don't see the email prior to us being ready to send some of those emails out. You can always shoot me a text message or who your TC is, shoot a quick text message over and just let us know, grabs our attention a little bit quicker, and we'll get it taken care of.
Okay. And also, we've been going back and forth with emails in regards to my .loop account, but the one I have access to is my previous brokerage, and I don't see our current transaction that we have going on. So is there another .loop that you have access to that I haven't, maybe I missed seen it?
Ruth,
it's very possible that
hold on a second. Ruth, let me
Yes.
answer that question for
Yes.
you. I'm the one who actually sends you your .loop credentials. So let me log on today and I will resend you the Epic .loop registration. Okay.
Okay, Ken. Thank you. Yes, sir.
All right. You're good.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Any other questions? Everybody see the website? We put the website in there so you could maybe bookmark that and go directly to the Empower Transactions site. All right.
Okay, the last thing that I have real fast on is just expectations on turnaround time. We will be including that in our email that goes out. I know we've gotten a lot of feedback on requesting an amendment or maybe even starting a new transaction and not knowing if it's been acknowledged, if it's been started, or just when you would receive it. So we do prep all documents, by the way, through your .loop account. So that process, if you've been with us from the beginning, that process changed a little when Epic went to .loop. But that's where we're prepping all documents, but we'll have a turnaround time for answered emails, for amendments and addendums that need to be, when they're requested, they need to be prepared and sent out for signature. And then also on your intro emails that go out to new contracts, so to all parties. So again, on that email, you'll get all of those expectations. So you'll know that if you send an email by a certain time during the day, you will get a response same day or next day, depending on when we receive it. So all of that will come through, and I'm hoping that will help with, just expectations on when we'll get the amendment completed or when we'll respond to something. The only thing on the amendments or document preparation, if we have a very heavy day, because we can't control the volume that comes in, we'll let you know on an ETA via text and just text you and saying, hey, we have about 50 ahead of you. Well, this will be done in like 4 hours, and just make sure that time frame still fits you. But that information will also come out on that email that I'm sending on Monday. Yes, Tiffany?
So you said prepping documents. What do you mean exactly by prepping documents?
So that the little website thing that Dawn had up just a second ago, that's how you kind of send everything to us. It's connected in your iCloud. So when you go to the transaction coordinator, it takes you to that. So you don't have to remember it, or you can bookmark it if you're not in the cloud to use it. But on there, it's very specific. So it'll say, I'm requesting listing documents to be prepared and sent for signatures. Then when you request that request comes through to us. Then we take that information, we prep it, have you look at it in .loop, and then we send it out for signatures once you've approved those documents. Same thing with an amendment or an addendum. You're requesting it straight from that site saying, I need this done. And then it goes into like, if this easy thing to reference it to like a ticketing system, it goes into like an order for us. And then we knock it out based on when it comes through. So those documents, when you're in contract to close, we're already handling compliance documents for you. So that's not a request because you've already sent us the contract. So that's part of contract to close. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Yes, Stacy.
How many TCs are specifically for the Texas market?
So I love this question. So in my world, we go a lot off of transaction count and volume. And to be honest, our summers look very different than the end of the year. So what that means is we kind of staff as the real estate market flows, and we staff for volume. We are very built out for training and implementing, and we hire only transaction coordinators that are experienced, so they can come in, and we're not ever training anyone to be like a TC per se. And then we also have levels down with team members. So that means that your TC no matter how many there are, also has a team of up to 20 under them. Like, just depends on where we're at in the volume. So it's hard to give like a good count because we go off of transactions submitted and volume that comes in for Texas. So like, as we see growth, we'll implement new roles that follow in our business model to help support that. So I don't know. I think Texas though is starting off with, I don't know, a lot. But I don't have a rough count on it. I hope that helps. It's just, it's in our world, it's so different. Like, I've been a realtor for 10 years. So I know, I know why y'all ask that question, to make sure it's covered. Just be, I want to say trust us, but I know that y'all have had.
So Molly is our main person to go to now though in the state of Texas.
That is correct for Molly in Texas. And then you'll have the new customer service person as well. But Molly will head the Texas team. Yes.
Okay. So we'll get the emails next week that detail it out for us more.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Selena, did you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I
Selena.
did. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. I'm on my phone, so it's like totally different with the buttons here.
You're good.
My question is, if we have an amendment, and would you prefer us to just go ahead and, I'm kind of weird about like sending it off. I will get it done, and then I'll just send the executed amendment or any type of like new file to the file. I'll go ahead and complete it. Do you want us, would it be better for us to send it to you via email so that way you guys can file it in dotloop, or just give you a heads up and
That's
hey, it's in
correct.
dotloop?
And I'm glad that you said that, because every agent is different. So that's why the website, we've added specific things, because some agents don't want us to prepare any amendment. They want to have that on their own and then send it to us when it's completed. And that's completely fine. Obviously just staying in the loop so that we don't send out an email, like someone was saying earlier, asking for something because we weren't CC'd on the completed document because we didn't do it ourselves. So yes, if you complete your own amendments or anything like that, disclosures, just send them to us and we will fully take care of dotloop. All you have to do is email that in.
And I love the new website, how it's just streamlined. Like, there's all these different things, because some of us want full service. Some of us don't want you to send emails. So now all of these different options are on the website.
Yes, and we have a Q&A, like or the FAQ, sorry, for like, we get a lot of questions on, I'm new to Epic, what to expect, what do I do, how do I do it, where do I go? So that's going to help with a lot of those questions as well. And then of course, our customer service person will be on meetings as needed too, to help with new agents. So
great. And I was just sharing that. All right.
I mean, I think that's it for me. Like I said, everyone will get an email early next week. Kind of just recapping we've talked about. We are going to add a survey on there. Please send a survey to us. We're doing this so we do get feedback. So we would love to have the survey filled out just to kind of engage where we're at, so that when Molly and her team, when they go into Texas, they will know what needs to be addressed immediately. So again, there will be a survey at the end of that email too. And then all contact information. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Molly. We appreciate you guys so much. So it's so fun growing with you. All right. All right, everybody. Does anyone have any other questions for Ken or any of us as area leaders? We want you all to know that we're always here for you wherever you're at. If you can't get a hold of one, ask the other. Try not to bombard Ken. He's got a lot going on. And rely on those admin emails for issues or things that you have with Epic. Rely on those emails. I'm going to put a link to an updated email graphic that you could save and favorite on your phone, so that anytime you have any questions, you can go to one of those emails. So I'll post that here shortly. And if we don't have any questions for anybody, then we are going to go ahead and hand it over to Miss Robbie Johnson in Abilene, who's going to walk us through. I'll let you tell us what you're going to walk us through, Robbie, and you're allowed to share your screen, so I'll let you do that. And I will also just spotlight you for a minute.
Thank you. So I am what most in Abilene would call a contracts nerd. So while people read a book a month, I probably read the contract every single month. It is what I love to do. And I've been licensed in 4 states, so I know all of the contracts in all of the states. And I would highly recommend that you become a contract nerd as well. And it isn't because we will ever give any type of advice on the contract. That's not what we do. We're not licensed attorneys, but we need to know where to find things in it. You know, when somebody says to me survey, I automatically know that's paragraph 6. If they want to know, you know, where the termination, you know, what's going to happen to a buyer or seller, that's paragraph 15. You just need to know where to be able to go and direct people to, and it makes you look more like an expert in your field when you're not fumbling through and trying to figure out where everything is in it. So a lot of times when agents call me and they want to know, how do I do this? Or where does it say this? And I'll say with them, let's go find it and let's read it together. It's real easy for me to just give you the answer. And I don't always just want to give you the answer. I want you to be able to learn the answer so that you'll know where it is next time. So my biggest piece of advice with contracts is timelines. It is vital that we follow the timelines that are in these contracts. So if you don't have a system already put in place to do this, years ago, I mean, you heard earlier, and Dawn, I think, shares this with me, is we've been in the business for 22 years. 22 years ago, things were done a lot different, and we didn't have the programs that we have today electronically. I used to put all the files in a folder, and on the top of the folder was a timeline. And I sat and filled out the timeline so that I wouldn't miss anything. So there's a lot of other things and apps to keep you on track today, but I would really highly recommend that until you really learn what those timelines are, if you have to get out that piece of paper and write everything down and transfer it to your planner, you need to do that. And that brings me to what we're going to talk about today, and that is the outs in the contract. I've highlighted, I'm sure that there's more. I didn't get into all the amendments and the addendums where there would be also, you know, outs as well. We're just going to look at the 1 to 4 today and some of the outs in there that you might miss or you might not even understand. And if I don't understand it, if Ken's still on, he could maybe explain it. If not, I'll get the answer for you. I don't know everything. So anyway, so let's get started. Let me share my screen. For those of you who were on last month, we started a blueprint for success with contracts. So I'll send this to Ken with my notes after, and you'll be able to put this in with your blueprints and refer back to it. You know, last month we talked about the active kickout and the backup contract and how, and the notification, how all of those 3 documents work together. So this month we're going to talk about outs. And if you keep these things, it's easy to be able to go back to them and refer to it and read it, and then go to your area leader. Come to us first before you go to Ken. And if we need to go to Ken, then we'll get Ken. But Ken's phone blows up all the time. So if you can come to your area leader first, it would certainly help. So we're going to start with the 1 to 4. And the first one I want to point out,
Robbie, really quick, for those who weren't here last month, what is the Blueprints for Success? Where is that at?
Actually, Ken sent it to everybody in Texas last month. So everybody should have it in their email. It was sent to everybody. And if not, I'll send it to them. We'll send it to them again. We'll make sure everybody gets it.
That's great.
And
so
what
we
I
can just
do
keep
is I can marry this into it, and then we just send it as one group. We can do that. It'll just take me a little bit of time to get it together. My day's stacked after this. So I'll get it though. Okay, so we're going to start with natural resource leases. Not everybody is going to deal with this, but I'm going to tell you, I was looking the other day at where our team was ranked in about 12 counties, and right under us was non-MLS before number 3 started in our area. Non-MLS sells almost as much as my team does. Non-MLS means other people in Texas coming and selling in our area. And y'all, that's a lot. I mean, we're talking about I'm at probably 32 million year to date. So that means that there's like 30 million coming into this area. So you've got to understand this. If you're working, we talk about that geographic competence. You've got to understand, especially when you come into West Texas, that you might be dealing with resource leases. So that's oil and gas and things like that. There are places actually in Abilene that have gas pumps or underneath the ground going through their property. So they have leases just right outside of downtown Abilene in the city limits. So that is an out in the contract. The seller has to deliver, if there is a lease on that property, the seller has to deliver that lease and provide it to the buyer. When you are doing the listing, you need to ask for a copy of the lease at that time. You don't have to upload it to the transactions if you don't want to. That might be a little bit more private information. But when you know that an offer is coming in order to eliminate this contingency in the contract, you need to deliver that lease. If not, what this states in here is that within 3 days of the effective date, that should be delivered. Buyer may terminate the contract within blank days, whatever amount that they put in this blank. After the date, the buyer receives all of the natural leases. Earnest money will be refunded. This is an out. Okay, moving on. We are going, Dawn, let me know if anybody has questions because I can't really
Okay.
see. So
I
we're gonna
zoomed
move on.
in.
What's that?
I zoomed in, but I think I need to zoom back out because they asked if we could zoom, but then when you moved over, it kind of changed a little bit. Can you guys still see her screen okay?
All I want y'all to see is the
Yes.
contract itself so
Okay.
that you can
Okay. Just
read.
making sure it's
I'm
all
wanting
still
you to
good.
read with me is basically what it is. Okay. We're going to move now. We're going to go down to paragraph 5, which is, your earnest money and option fee. So let's just talk about real quick. Let's go to E before we even talk about B, C, or D. In all bold, and there's only a few places where time is of the essence in the Texas contract. So that means when it says time is of the essence, it is strict compliance. That's legal. There's no getting around it. There is no, oh, would you just let me go? It's past 5 o'clock. If it says time is of the essence, you're going to have to prove those times potentially in court. So always keep that in mind whenever you're delivering notices and different things like that, that this whole paragraph is time is of the essence. So moving to paragraph B, this time is of the essence. I just wanted to let you know is 5 o'clock. Remember that for your termination option. And it says deliver notice. I've spoken to an attorney about this, and I think where some agents get hung up, and I don't want you to stop doing it, I'm just sharing with you. If you ever get a notice by email or by text that says it's 4:55 and they say the buyer is terminating, you've been delivered notice. The contract does not say you must take a Texas Realtor or TREC form, fill the form out, and have it before 5 o'clock. It states deliver notice. So do I want you to stop doing it the way that you're doing it? Absolutely not. It needs to be in the signed forms, but deliver notice is important that it's in there. And from what I've been told, I dated an attorney before my now husband, and he said, Robbie, there's always 2 attorneys with 2 different opinions and 1 judge that gets to decide. An attorney is going to read the same sentence one way, and the other attorney is going to read that sentence a different way. So to stay safe, use the forms, but it does say deliver notice. Okay, moving to 6C. People, not 6C, I'm sorry, 5C. We're still in 5. We're not into the survey yet. So in 5C, this is actually a seller out. The buyer has to make timely delivery of the earnest money, or the seller can actually terminate the contract. There are very few places that a seller can terminate a contract or a listing agreement. They can't terminate listing agreements. That's another thing that I've recently learned from an attorney. But this is one of the few places in the contract where they can actually terminate. So make sure that not only are you getting the option fee in on time, you're also ensuring that your client is getting the earnest money in on time. And especially if you were in any type of multiple offer situation where it's a hot property, because they could have gotten another offer in that they want to take and they're watching this timeline. If it's a good listing agent, they're watching this timeline. Next is D. We know this, failure to deliver the option fee within the timeline basically eliminates the unrestricted right to cancel. So when you have a buyer who says, I'm just not going to go forward with the property and I'm not going to turn in the option fee or turn in the earnest money, if they don't turn that in, they don't have an unrestricted right to cancel. Don't advise them to do that if we're in day 2 of an effective contract. That would not be good at all because the seller has remedies within this contract and it has to be delivered. So keep that in mind. They don't have the right if they don't deliver it.
So,
okay.
So
Yes.
Robbie, quick
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
If they don't turn in the option money or the earnest money, what needs to be done to cancel that contract?
Well, they would have to have another out within the contract, to be honest with you. I mean, it could be a financing out that if they, had a financing time period within there, but they would have to have another out within the contract. If they don't buy the unrestricted right to cancel, they can't cancel on day 2. They don't have the unrestricted right if they've not paid that $100 or $50, whatever it is, $200, $1,000. The earnest money is a different situation because in the earnest money, the seller can terminate. That's the remedy, is the seller can terminate if that's not turned in. The issue is going to be for the buyer if they've not turned in option and they've not turned in earnest, or let's say they've turned in option and they haven't turned in earnest because they know that they're going to cancel and they're just paying their $100 or whatever. In paragraph 15, it talks about 2 different things that the seller can do. And one of them is sue for specific performance. And I'm going to tell you, around here, that has happened so much, and most of the time the seller wins. We've had lots of specific performance lawsuits within the last 3 years. As long as I've done this, this is the first time ever in my career. And it has been in the last 3 years since COVID. It's rampant here.
Wow. Thank you.
Okay. Next is title commitment. It's going to be, so this is a tough one. So title commitment is within 20 days after the title company receives the contract, it says the seller shall furnish to buyer. So that is coming from the title company, which is the title commitment. It goes on to talk about that there's commitment, and then there's also exception documents that are going to be sent as well. And those exception documents are going to be like covenants and restrictions, just to give you an idea as to what an exception document is. So those have to be delivered to the buyer within this specified time. If it's not delivered to the buyer, it's an automatic extension for 15 days or 3 days before the closing, whichever one comes earlier. So then once that is delivered, there's your buyer out. If they don't agree with it or have questions about it or there's problems with it, there's your out right there. Is they can then cancel the contract. So we're going to kind of come back to that in a minute because it's split up in this contract, because now it moves on to C, which is survey. So all up here at the top has been about title policy and kind of what breaks out the title policy, who's paying for what. Okay. So now we're going to go down and we're going to talk about survey. I know Sheridan is on this call, and she and I learned this one at the same time. I was representing a buyer who was purchasing one of her husband's a builder, one of his properties. And the buyer tried to use this paragraph, which is 6C, as an out. It is not an out. And of course, me being a contract nerd, I went straight to an attorney and said, help me understand this, because this is the way I see it. And he said, you're 100% right, Robbie. The remedy is in the paragraph. The remedy is not an out. So within the certain days, if the seller has not furnished the buyer the existing survey, here is what it says. It does not say the buyer can cancel. It says if buyer fails to furnish the existing survey or affidavit within the time prescribed, buyer shall obtain a new survey at seller's expense no later than 3 days prior to closing. This is not an out. Okay, moving on. Y'all are easy. Hardly any questions.
No, this is great.
Actually, I have a
Okay.
question about the survey.
Yes.
So for an example, I have a client who I put some land for him that has 2 different parcels that had to be combined so that he can pretty much cut out like 24 acres of that, but he doesn't have a survey. I'm sorry, that's a completely different question. If I have a seller who did a survey, but I did not have them do a T47 because the survey is brand new, is that T47 still necessary, or could I wait until I got a buyer and then add a T47?
So my understanding of a T47, it would be an existing survey. It's basically a seller's disclosure of an existing survey. That's what a T47 is. From what I have been told of recent by a title attorney is that on the T47, they're not putting, so if you've got a survey that's being repeated and it's being handed down like 2 or 3 times, you would not put the date of when your buyer, so to say, and I'm not saying you, the buyer would put this, or the seller, you would not put the date as to when the seller bought that property. They want the date all the way back. And I argued a little bit with the attorney and said, hey, you're putting this burden back on my seller. They don't know what went on with this survey back in 1980. They didn't buy the house until 2015. And they said, too bad. That's the way it's going to be. So when you're dealing with an existing survey, it is putting it on that seller, at least with some title attorneys, that they want that date to go all the way back in time. If there's not an existing survey and it's a brand new survey, this is going to fall in either box 2 or 3, and there's no T47 that's mentioned in either one of those boxes. Did I answer your question?
So then I don't need to worry about having them fill out a T47 and get it notarized because the survey is new.
Not if it's a brand new survey. Unless it's a brand new survey that's been existing for a little bit. If there's been any existence to that survey other than survey company has gone out and sent the survey to the title company, that would be a brand new survey. But if they got this survey a year ago, they still have to disclose whether they've done anything on that property that would affect those survey lines. Okay. And I have found lately that the title companies are going to Google Maps and Google Earth. Yesterday, I had to have a seller draw a little shed, basically, because Google Earth had taken a picture and I kept saying, it's on skids. It's not on foundation. They do not need to be doing this. This is a removable building, and they still made us do it. So we had to physically go in and draw on there this little portable building. So, and made them update the T47 that the portable building was on the property.
Okay, yeah, because
when you start talking about geographic competence, when you get into certain parts of Texas, you've got a lot of on-site sewers or septic systems. And that is the reason for the T47 is so important, is because nothing can go over those lateral lines. That's the problem with it. Or encroachments on other people's property. We see that a lot here, where fences are built on somebody else's property and things like that.
Okay, because I think somebody told me that even if the sellers had a brand new survey, if I didn't deliver the T47 when there was a offer for the buyers, then they could actually elect to say the buyer wants a brand new survey and the seller has to pay for
That
it.
is correct, because what your work, I am very much a, let's repeat what you said. The seller delivered to the buyer. It was a brand new survey that they delivered to the buyer. That means that survey was prior to an offer, not during a contract. Does that make sense? What your words were to me just now was the seller gave the buyer a brand new one. So my question to you is, did they give the buyer a brand new one in an offer or pre-offer period? Or did they give it in a contract period when it was ordered and performed? Because that's vastly two different things.
Oh, okay. No. So
following
then,
me?
yeah. So no, it was handed down before the offer was given.
Okay, then that is an existing survey. In my opinion, that could be, you always have to think about how is an attorney going to look at this in court in protecting your client. And that would be an existing survey. Doesn't matter if it was dated a month ago. They could have done something. They could have moved buildings onto lateral lines or moved a fence in a month. So just always remember a T47, all that is a seller's disclosure of the survey. It's what the seller knows about that survey. Just like they have to disclose about the property. I mean, let's look at a seller's disclosure with a property. You buy a property and flip it. You've owned it 2 months. You still have to disclose what you know. You are not part of the protected classes, so to say, in Texas, of not having to disclose.
Okay, so then
Okay.
what you're saying, to cover myself, it's just better to have them do it if it's not going to cost them anything anyway to do a T47 and just put it on there.
Absolutely. It's not going to hurt anything at all to have them disclose what they know. I am all about disclosure. All you're doing is protecting your client in that, and you're protecting it in both sides, especially if you ask for it, if you're a buyer's agent.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's move to objections real quick. Right here, I see a lot, people are buying a home and they write residential right here. Apparently, if it's in a neighborhood, you probably don't need to write residential. That's already been deemed as a residential neighborhood. But I will tell you that one of the biggest things here is going to be chicken coops and horses and different things like that. Or if they want to own a beauty salon or open a dog kennel or whatever it is that they want to do with that property, that would maybe be a little bit against the norm of some of the other properties. Or even if it's within the norm of the other properties, I would put it in there because like my house, for instance, was pulled out of a subdivision 40 years ago, and it's been kept up where whoever pulled it out put specific deed restrictions on my house. Why? I can't even have an RV on my property, but everybody around me can. Doesn't even make any sense. But that's the way it is. So you've got to be careful of saying the neighbor can have chickens, you can too. So I brokered, so to say, when I was a supervising broker, a lawsuit that had to do with chickens and it being property being pulled out. So in here, as a listing agent, you want this right here filled in. This is a buyer out. If this doesn't have days in it, it's a default, and the default is right here, and that's closing date. You do not want to give a buyer all the way to the closing date to have objections to title or encumbrances or survey or whatever they're going to have objections to. So make sure that you've got a 3 or a 5 or whatever it is in here. When you're a buyer's agent, of course, they leave them blank all the time. But this is one of the things. I have a net sheet made up for my team and for the area agents here. And that is one of the things that is on there, is a question to force the agent to go and look at this blank. This is a major buyer out. And you don't want to give a buyer all the way to closing date with this out right here. Okay, moving on. I'm gonna also put for y'all some things that I've had in conversations with attorneys and on attorney sites and different things like that with some of the buyer outs whenever it comes to title. That's gonna be on the thing that I'm gonna send to y'all, or Ken will send to you. Okay, we are now gonna go to 7B2. This is probably my biggest pet peeve. And that is the seller's disclosure. I think that it is, and I'm just going to put it out there and tell y'all, I am pretty transparent in my feelings when it comes to contracts. It is reckless on your part as an agent and as a listing agent if you do not have a seller's disclosure before you list that property in the MLS or wherever you're going to put it out for the public to see after August. Wherever that is. This should not ever be a contingency for a buyer to be able to get out of. I don't think y'all realize how important it is because this is another option period. Let's read it. If this box right here gets checked, and this is another one that I have on that report that we have the seller sign, is which box did they check? Because if they checked this one right here, where it's a counter offer or an invitation for a new offer. So number 2, buyer has not received the notice within blank days, 4, 10, 3, whatever the buyer's agent puts in there. After the effective date of this contract, seller shall deliver the notice to the buyer. If buyer does not receive the notice, buyer may terminate this contract at any time prior to closing, and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. If the seller delivers the notice, buyer may terminate this contract for any reason within 7 days after buyer receives the notice or prior to closing, whichever is earlier. So let's think about this. Buyer may terminate this contract for any reason. That is the unrestricted right to cancel. Once again, it's right there in writing. Y'all, I cannot impress upon you enough. This is not a conversation that you want to have with a seller because you did not realize that box was checked. And if it's in the MLS, that is not necessarily deliverance. We can say to the agent, we had it in the MLS and the document storage or whatever. If they have checked this box, I will say, did you not see it in the MLS? Let me send it to you right now because this contract will not be effective. We're changing this box. You do not want that box checked. You're going to have some sellers who just don't fill it out. They don't, for whatever reason, it takes them forever to fill it out. We've all had that. That's on them at that point in time. You've done your job by telling them that they need to do this. But this is a conversation that you should be having at time of listing. Whenever you are in your listing appointment, I hand bring them a seller's disclosure and say, this is how important it is. Let me read this to you in the contract. It is a built-in out for a buyer.
Robbie,
any questions about that?
Yvonne
Yes.
has a question. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yes.
Yes, and you kind of touched on my question. What exactly does deliverance mean? Because I was in a situation where the seller's disclosure was uploaded to the MLS, and my leader at that time said, that's not technically delivered. It needs to come from the seller's agent in an email. And we went back and forth, and they're like, it's on the MLS, that's delivered. What's technically?
You know, you have to be careful because let's go back to, there's always 2 attorneys with 2 different opinions, because the MLS also states that, you know, there's a disclosure at the bottom of most MLSs that state information in the MLS is not deemed to be accurate. You can't depend on it. Let's go back to, if it says the seller's going to leave a refrigerator in the MLS, unless it's in the contract, then the refrigerator is not there. The problem that I see with it is that if box number 2, it comes down to box 1 or 2 being checked. If box number 2 is checked, apparently deliverance has not been made and you can't rely on the MLS. you as an agent have just got to be able to go back to that box number 2 and realize that they checked it. They obviously didn't see it in the MLS, and now I need to deliver it to them before we go effective. And I need to change that. I need to change the checkbox because now deliverance has been made. You can prove deliverance in an email. MLS, we can't really prove deliverance.
Good point.
Okay. Let's move to lender required repairs. So unless otherwise agreed in writing, and the reason that it says unless otherwise agreed in writing is because at times whenever you get into a market that is tight, so to say, and let's say that you have a VA buyer, and sellers love VA buyers whenever it's a buyer's market. So because they're fantastic loans. But whenever there's multiple offers, they don't always want them because of lender required repairs are most of the time going to come up more on a VA or an FHA than on a conventional, although I do see it occasionally on conventionals. But buyer will put that they will take care of the VA required repairs. So that would be agreed in writing already. So we know this. So then the rest of this would not really be part of it because we have something else that is already agreed in writing. If it's not, and it comes up and it says, the appraisal is conditional on whatever, wood rot, then neither party is obligated to pay the lender required repairs. And I think that that's something that at times buyer's agents think, or even listing agents think that the seller has to do this. They don't. It can be negotiated at that time. Neither is required to do it. If the parties do not agree to pay for the lender required, that's hard for me to say, required repairs or treatments, this contract will terminate and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. If the cost of the lender required repairs and treatments exceed 5% of the sales price, the buyer may terminate this contract. So there's your protection sentence right there. If they have written it into the contract already, that they were going to take care of all of those repairs. Next is, our next out is on completion of repairs. If the seller fails to complete any agreed repairs and treatments prior to the closing date, the buyer may exercise the remedies in paragraph 15 or extend the closing date up to 5 days if necessary for seller to complete the repairs. So in this one's interesting. If you notice in this, the attorneys who wrote it or the broker attorney committee, whoever it is who wrote this, they didn't just go straight to EMD as returned. They're letting the buyer sue for specific performance in this. So you have a buyer who's saying, I still want this house and I want the seller to do this. So there's your remedies that come into paragraph 15. It's not just cancel and get your earnest money back. It's no, you're going to do this. So of course, then they're going to have to go to court and things like that. That's a whole different ball game, but you could then refer them to paragraph 15. And we're going to read paragraph 15 in a few minutes. Okay. Moving on to paragraph 12. So 12 is where right now is where we're putting in, concessions, things that seller is going to help to pay with closing costs for the buyer. And that's all going to be found in A. That's kind of where the expenses are laid out. And then in B, it says, if any expense exceeds an amount expressly stated in this contract for such expense to be paid by a party, that party may terminate this contract unless the other party agrees to pay such excess. Buyer may not pay charges and fees. That goes with FHA and VA and Texas Land Board. So if I've never had this come up ever where anybody has ever used this as an out, but it is an out for either party. And I am going to go back to maybe a foundation repair. Ken, you might have some more examples of this one. It's nothing that I've ever used. It's an out. But an expense that would exceed an amount expressly stated. I would think that it would be something like if an $8,000 repair became a $15,000 repair or something like that, that they could say, I'm not going to pay that, I'm going to terminate. That's not one that I've ever had before as to where it would be actually said someplace else in this contract. But if you ever get it, I or Ken will certainly help you figure it out.
Right.
Okay, next is in paragraph 14, this is another buyer out. And that's going to be with your casualty loss. So casualty loss is going to be what we called in another state force majeure, or Mother Nature at times as well. So if any part of the property is destroyed or damaged by fire or other casualty after the effective date, the seller shall restore the property to its previous condition as soon as reasonably possible. I wish they wouldn't have reasonably possible, because that's an arguable term in court, in my opinion. But in any event, by the closing date. So there's your other part of it right there, is by the closing date. If seller fails to do so due to factors beyond seller's control, the buyer may terminate this contract and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. And it gives all the different things that they may do. But here we are again, as in a buyer out. Next is, and the reason that I'm bringing like this one up right here is, if you get in a situation where hailstorms or hurricanes or whatever it is, to go to paragraph 14 and read it and see, you're not going to remember all this. All I'm trying to do for you today is know it's in there. I need to go find it and I need to read it, and I need to show my client where it is so they can read it. It's not our job to explain it. It's our job to show them where it is so that they can read it. So our last is paragraph 15, which is the default paragraph. I probably have this paragraph memorized because I have to deal with it so much. If buyer fails to comply with this contract, the buyer will be in default, and the seller may do one of two things: enforce specific performance and seek other such relief as provided by the law, or terminate this contract and receive the earnest money as liquidated damages, thereby releasing both parties. So you send over, you're a buyer's agent, and you send over a termination, and it states in there that buyer's going to get the earnest money or seller's going to get whatever it is that you put in there. What this states is that when the seller signs that, they are releasing both parties from the contract. Agents who don't understand that part of it will push you and say, your seller needs to sign, your seller needs to sign. You put it back on the market. When the buyer gives notice that they're canceling, the seller can put it back on the market. The seller does not have to sign this. When they sign this, they're essentially saying they're losing their right to exercise specific performance. So if they're going to go the specific performance route, they don't need to sign it. That's why you need to stay uninvolved in that. If they are furiously mad, don't say, well, go ahead and sign this and then I'll put it back on the market. You've now practiced law, and that can get you in trouble. They need to immediately, and you need to have in your phone at all times to be able to give them 2 to 3 real estate attorney phone numbers who they need to call to get advice on what to do next, if they're not willing to just say, give me the earnest money and let's move on. Next is if the seller fails to comply. So let's go back to where we talked about a while ago, where it didn't just say earnest money is going to be returned. If seller fails to comply with this contract, the seller shall be in default, and the buyer may enforce specific performance or seek other such relief, or terminate this contract and receive the earnest money. So it is there for them, but in that specific paragraph a while ago, it is giving them the option to be able to sue. So that is it with, I feel, the buyer outs that you need to be aware of in this contract. We can do more if y'all want to do more when it comes to the third-party financing and the appraisal addendum. There's a lot of them that have buyer outs in those as well. There's about 40, I think it's 38 buyer outs throughout. And there's only maybe 2 or 3 for the seller in Texas. We are definitely heavier on the buyer side in our contracts. So any other questions?
Esther has a question.
Yes.
You just said that there's 40 buyer outs, right? Do you have like
Throughout all of our contracts? I'm just throwing a number out there as to what it could possibly be. Exactly 40. I know that there's a book out there that Reba Saxon wrote, and I think in that one she said that there was like 38. And that's a great book, and I'm hoping that she rewrites it after we get the new contracts come through. So.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you maybe if you have just like a quick list that we could just look at.
I'm going to send it to you. Yes, I'm going to send you what all we talked about today. So if you ever have an issue, you can just go right there and reference it and find it in the contract.
Thanks, Robbie. You're awesome.
And I love us continuing this conversation next month as well and going through the amendments and the addendums and everything,
Absolutely.
Robbie. So any more you can get together would be amazing because this is really good information.
I get very passionate about it. I'm so sorry. I'm very passionate about contracts.
No, I think that's great. I'm sorry. I think it's awesome because we run through so many, what's this, what's that, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Am I not, So I think it's awesome when you have like a paper,
Yeah, especially when you're new and you barely know your way through the contract and then really think of the, all of the outs as like, we get it. We want to be here to help you. That's what we're here for as your area leaders. And make sure your area leaders are approving your contracts before you send them. They're looking at it. You've got more than one eye on those contracts. That's what we're here for. Harvey has a question. Harvey, what's your question?
Yes. So when it comes to the seller's disclosure, once a client has filled that seller's disclosure out, does that mean that whenever there's a buyer and they see some things that the seller put in the disclosure stating that certain things are damaged in the house, then they can't come back and try to negotiate one of those items? Is there something wrong?
They can ask the seller to fix it. The seller's disclosed it. They can still ask the seller to fix it in there. The seller just has an obligation to disclose it. They don't have an obligation to fix it. That just becomes negotiated. But yes, the buyer can ask for anything to be fixed.
Okay.
I want to just share this too with all of you on here because so many of us are new to the company. In my history, especially the last 8 years, I've always been the broker figure in the company. And in a lot of the things that would come up and I would read, the paragraphs and read them and reread them. I have 3 brokers in town who I'm very close to, and I'll call and say, I just need you to listen for a minute. I need to talk this through. And then, am I reading this right? Yes, you are. And the structure of Epic with the area leaders and with our state broker, Ken and I have already, in 2 or 3 instances, I've gone to Ken and said, we had one come up with an attorney wanting to be paid on a closing disclosure. Ken and I sat and talked it through and looked at what Texas law says and things like that. It is so nice to finally be in a company where there's not just Robbie, so to say, that there's other people who I can go to, whether it's Jess or Dawn or any of the other area leaders, or I can go straight to Ken and have these conversations. I don't have to leave Epic any longer. Well, I never left Epic, but I meant my other company. I don't have to leave and go somewhere else and have these discussions. I can have them here. The power in this company that y'all have chosen to be part of, the brain power, the years of experience of all of us is incredible. Embrace it and pull from your area leaders and learn from them. That's what we are here for. And we want to see every single one of you be successful. And please don't ever think a question is a stupid question. It's not. I would much rather you come to one of us and say, am I reading this right? Or where do I find this? I don't want you to get in trouble.
I love
I don't
it.
want to have to, as I have with so many people, figure out how to get them out of trouble. Let's prevent it.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right,
you
thank you,
so
Robbie.
much, Robbie. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Ken.
I
Any
was just gonna
closing
say,
words?
yeah, I was just gonna say thank you all for being here. We'll see you next month. If you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we're happy to respond because we're here to help you. We're here to support you and make you more successful. So thank you so much for spending an hour of your time with us, and we'll see you again next month.
Thank
Bye,
you,
y'all.
Robbie. Robbie, that was awesome. Just one more thank you for that. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're welcome.
Yes, thank you,
You're
Robbie.
welcome.
All right.
Can't forget to hit end recording, Dawn.
I will.
Thank you, Robbie.
Bye, y'all.
All right.